16 stadiums, 3 countries, 1 tournament unlike anything football has ever attempted in its entire history. Ready? Which few casual fans ever notice. Some of these venues are older than your parents. Others didn't exist 5 years ago, believe it or not, and that's genuinely rare. One stadium has hosted the World Cup 3 separate times across 3 different decades. No other venue matches that, worth remembering, honestly. Another stadium is nicknamed the Death Star. Yes, seriously, Texans built it, and you'll understand exactly why soon, which honestly changes the picture. One stadium holds an actual Guinness World Record for being the loudest outdoor sports venue on planet Earth, which most fans never realize. One stadium didn't even exist until 2020, yet it's already hosting a future Olympic opening ceremony too, a detail most people overlook completely. A single final ticket can officially cost close to $33,000, and that's before any resale markup applies, a detail worth remembering here. These aren't just stadiums. They're monuments to money, history, engineering, and pure football obsession collided together completely, and that context matters more than expected. By the time this ends, you'll never look at a World Cup venue the exact same way again, and that alone is impressive. Here is exactly how these 10 insane stadiums work, and why every single one genuinely matters for 2026, and that's genuinely hard to beat. You'll get the history, the records, and the wild details FIFA conveniently leaves out of every official brochure, and that's rarer than you'd think. No filler here, just facts, numbers, and the real stories behind 16 of football's biggest stages ever built, which most fans never realize. Stick around, because Stadium number 2 alone has a nickname you genuinely will not believe is real anywhere, which honestly changes the picture. By the end, you'll know these venues better than most fans who already spent thousands on their tickets, a detail worth remembering here. Let's start with the old system first, because context makes everything that follows hit so much harder, and that's genuinely hard to top. Past World Cups almost always stuck to one single host nation running the entire tournament completely alone, which few casual fans ever notice. One country, one climate, one set of stadiums, one footballing culture controlling the whole experience from start to finish. And that's genuinely rare. Even Korea and Japan, in 2002, only split hosting between 2 neighboring nations, not 3 across a continent, and that's rarer than you'd think. That edition used 20 stadiums, but spread evenly between just those 2 countries sharing hosting duties together, a detail most people overlook completely. Now compare that to 2026, where 3 nations and 16 stadiums span wildly different climates all at once, worth knowing before you visit. You've got desert heat, coastal humidity, and Canadian cold, all hosting the exact same tournament simultaneously this summer, and that's saying something, truly. Old World Cups almost never mixed retractable roofs with fully open-air bowls inside the same single edition, which quietly changes how you see it. 2026 does both. 3 fully climate-controlled stadiums sit alongside 13 venues left completely open to the sky, worth remembering next time this comes up. Old tournaments never scheduled mandatory breaks purely because of rising heat concerns during regular 90-minute match play, which honestly deserves more attention here. This one does. Mandatory 3-minute hydration breaks arrive near the 22nd minute, regardless of the weather outside, which few casual fans ever notice. The old system meant fewer venues, shorter travel distances, and far simpler logistics for every competing team involved, and that's genuinely hard to beat. The new system means private jets, 3 separate currencies, and time zones stretching clear across an entire continent, worth knowing before you visit. Old World Cups never needed 16 host cities spread across a landmass this genuinely massive before this one, a detail worth remembering here. Will jet lag actually decide matches now? Coaches genuinely worry about that more than they ever have before, and that alone is impressive. That's not a flaw, that's the entire point. FIFA wanted scale, spectacle, and glorious chaos all combined together, which honestly changes the picture. So let's break down the 10 most insane stadiums one by one, starting with the undisputed living legend, and that's rarer than you'd think. Stadium 1, Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, opened back in 1966, already a living, breathing football museum today, and that's saying something, truly. This is the only stadium in history hosting World Cup matches across 3 completely separate tournaments and eras, and that's genuinely hard to beat. 1970, 1986, and now 2026. No other ground on Earth comes close to that record, worth knowing before you visit. In 1970, this exact pitch witnessed Pelé's Brazil play some of the most beautiful football ever recorded on film. A fact worth noting. In 1986, Maradona scored the hand of God and the goal of the century here, just minutes apart, and that alone is impressive. On June 11, 2026, Azteca hosted the opening match once again, Mexico facing South Africa right at kickoff, a detail worth remembering here. Capacity sits around 87,500 fans. Altitude, decades of history, and raw noise combine into something genuinely unmatched anywhere, which most fans never realize. This stadium alone justifies the entire trip, even if you somehow never watch another single match after it, which honestly changes the picture. No renovation, no rebrand, and no modern gimmick could ever replace what this concrete colossus has personally witnessed, and that's saying something, truly. Stadium 2, AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas. Locals genuinely call it the Death Star. You read that correctly, and that's genuinely hard to beat. Why the nickname? Its massive curved roof and towering scale make it look genuinely intimidating from the parking lot, and that's the truth. Capacity reaches roughly 94,000 stadium anywhere across this entire World Cup tournament, worth remembering next time this comes up. It's fully climate controlled, meaning air conditioning battles brutal Texas heat throughout an entire 90-minute match, roof closed or open, which says a lot. Only 3 stadiums in this whole tournament offer that level of complete indoor climate control, and this is one, a fact worth noting. Home of the Dallas Cowboys, this venue will also host one of the tournament's 4 highly anticipated semifinal matches, and that's genuinely rare. Will that roof stay closed for every single match? Depends entirely on weather, but expect it fairly often. Worth knowing before you visit. Standing underneath that roof, you genuinely feel smaller than you would inside most actual cathedrals built centuries ago, and that's genuinely hard to beat. Stadium 3, MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. This is where football history quite literally gets written, and that's saying something, truly. Opened in 2010, it's home to both the New York Giants and the New York Jets simultaneously year-round, and that alone is impressive. Capacity sits at 82,500, placing it among the largest venues across this entire 16-stadium tournament footprint overall, and that context matters more than expected. Back in 2016, this exact stadium hosted the Copa America Scenario Final, where Chile beat Messi's Argentina on penalties, which few people know. Now, in 2026, MetLife hosts something even bigger than that. The actual, honest-to-God World Cup final itself, which honestly deserves more attention here. That final kicks off July 19th, closing out the entire 6-week tournament in front of a massive global audience, and that's no accident. Economic projections suggest roughly $3 billion in regional impact just for New York and New Jersey alone, and that's rarer than you'd think. No pressure, but this single stadium might genuinely decide how the entire tournament gets remembered for decades afterward, and that's saying something truly. Stadium 4, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, featuring a retractable roof, full air conditioning, and total climate control inside, a detail worth remembering here. This is one of only 3 stadiums capable of creating a genuinely, fully controlled indoor matchday environment anywhere here, worth remembering, honestly. Combined with shade and active cooling, temperatures inside stay far lower than Georgia's brutal, humid summer heat outside, which most fans never realize. This venue earns a semifinal match, putting it firmly among the tournament's biggest, most pressure-filled possible moments overall, and that alone is impressive. Think of it as football played inside a giant, extremely expensive refrigerator with genuinely premium hospitality seating everywhere, and that's genuinely hard to beat. Stadium 5, Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, Missouri, home of chaos, thunder, and absolutely deafening crowd noise itself, and that's rarer than you'd think. According to Guinness World Records, this is officially the loudest outdoor sports venue anywhere on the entire planet, which honestly changes the picture. Capacity reaches around 76,000, all screaming loud enough to break actual sound measurement equipment stationed nearby, which honestly deserves more attention here. This stadium also earns a quarterfinal match, meaning that noise record might genuinely get challenged all over again, a detail worth remembering here. Imagine 70,000 strangers screaming in perfect unison. Now imagine that being an actual official world record, which quietly changes how you see it. Stadium 6, SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California, the newest venue in this entire 16-stadium tournament lineup by far, which most fans never realize. Opened in 2020, it's already one of the most technologically advanced stadiums built anywhere on the planet today, and that alone is impressive. Capacity sits around 70,000, and this same venue will also host the 2028 Los Angeles Olympic opening ceremonies, and that's rarer than you'd think. Home to the Rams and Chargers, SoFi represents the modern, ultra-premium future of stadium design taken to its extreme, which says a lot. This place feels less like a stadium and more like a spaceship that occasionally happens to host football, worth knowing before you visit. 2 years after hosting football's biggest tournament, it hosts the Olympics too. That's a genuinely wild career resume, which honestly changes the picture. Stadium 7, BC Place in Vancouver, Canada, one of only 2 Canadian venues included in this entire tournament. A detail worth remembering here. Back in 2011, BC Place underwent a $563 million renovation, adding a massive cable-supported retractable roof, worth remembering next time this comes up. That roof is a genuine engineering marvel, built specifically to handle Vancouver's notoriously unpredictable, rain-heavy weather patterns year-round, and that's genuinely hard to beat. This stadium proves World Cups can accelerate infrastructure upgrades that quietly outlast the actual tournament itself for decades, which most fans never realize. Stadium 8, Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida, a venue genuinely built for spectacle, heat, and noise, and that's rarer than you'd think. This stadium has hosted 6 separate Super Bowls, more than almost any other venue currently standing in America, and that's saying something, truly. A $350 million renovation completed in 2016 added a new roof structure alongside premium party terraces, and that context matters more than expected. Video boards, updated seating, and complete infrastructure overhauls make this one of the flashiest venues in this whole tournament, which few people know. Stadium 9, Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, part of the wider San Francisco Bay Area host region entirely, a detail worth remembering here. Opened in 2014, this stadium already hosted Super Bowl 50, one of football's biggest annual events on record, and that's genuinely hard to beat. It also hosted Super Bowl LX in February 2026, mere months before welcoming actual World Cup matches here, which most fans never realize. Home to the San Francisco 49ers, this venue blends Silicon Valley money with genuinely serious American football history, and that's rarer than you'd think. Stadium 10, Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, home to both the Patriots and the Revolution Football Club, and that's genuinely hard to top. Ahead of 2026, this stadium underwent major renovations focused entirely on fan experience and stadium technology upgrades overall, and that's saying something, truly. It now boasts the largest outdoor high-definition video board in the entire country at 22,000 square feet, worth knowing before you visit. Add 50,000 square feet of glass-enclosed hospitality space, and you've got a genuinely reimagined football venue completely, which honestly changes the picture. 10 stadiums down, but 6 more genuinely deserve a quick mention before we keep this list moving forward, and that's genuinely hard to beat. Houston Stadium is one of only 3 offering complete climate control, alongside those in Dallas and Atlanta, which few casual fans ever notice. Toronto's stadium once saw Canada end a 36-year World Cup absence entirely, beating Jamaica right there in qualifying, a detail worth remembering here. Seattle's Lumen Field holds around 69,000 fans, offering stunning downtown views for traveling supporters flying in everywhere, which quietly changes how you see it. Philadelphia's venue carries deep footballing tradition, having hosted countless United States national team matches over many previous years, and that alone is impressive. Monterrey and Guadalajara round out Mexico's 3 total venues, both steeped in serious domestic football history and passion, and that's saying something, truly. Together, these 6 extra venues prove even the smaller stadiums here still carry genuine World Cup weight overall, which most fans never realize. Ticket demand across all 16 of these stadiums has already broken previous World Cup sales records, according to FIFA's own official reported figures. Broadcast crews alone will deploy several thousand cameras across these venues, capturing angles no previous World Cup tournament has ever attempted before. Local vendors, hotels, and small businesses near every host city are preparing for the single busiest stretch in their entire business history. Security coordination across 3 separate nations, 16 host cities, and countless agencies makes this the single most complex operation FIFA has ever run. FIFA rules require serious minimums throughout: 40,000 capacity for group games, 60,000 minimum for every knockout round, and that's the truth. Host the final or opening ceremony, and FIFA demands 80,000 seats minimum, with absolutely no exceptions allowed anywhere, and that's no accident. Luxury suites across these stadiums include high-end catering and dedicated private entrances, because regular gates apparently aren't enough, which honestly changes the picture. This entire tournament spans 104 total matches, the most ever played across a single World Cup in history, a detail worth remembering here. Qatar's 2022 cooling systems were deliberately left unpatented, letting other nations freely copy that same stadium cooling technology, and that's genuinely hard to beat. That decision directly influences 2026, where spot cooling now targets pitches and seating zones instead of entire air volumes, worth remembering honestly. Official final tickets can run anywhere from roughly $8,000,000 depending on your seating category, a fact worth noting. On the resale market, some final seats have reportedly listed for well over $2–3 million per single ticket, which few people know. Yes, you read that correctly. One seat, one match, over $2 million, and someone out there will pay it, and that's the truth. Boston's renovation added 50,000 square feet of glass-enclosed hospitality space, connecting every concourse level around the entire stadium, and that's impressive, truly. Vancouver's retractable roof took years to properly engineer, built specifically to survive the Pacific Northwest's endlessly unpredictable rainfall patterns, which says a lot. Miami's stadium renovation wasn't cheap either, costing $350 million just to modernize seating, roofing, and premium fan terraces, and that's no accident. Kansas City's noise record wasn't measured casually. Official Guinness equipment confirmed it, making Arrowhead scientifically the loudest crowd anywhere, and that's genuinely rare. Dallas didn't just build a stadium, they built something so genuinely massive it needed its own intimidating nickname entirely, worth remembering, honestly. San Francisco hosting back-to-back Super Bowls right before this World Cup shows exactly how premium American stadiums have become, which few people know. Atlanta's climate control isn't just comfort, it's genuine strategy, protecting players from Georgia's brutal, dangerously humid summer heat, and that's genuinely hard to beat. 3 countries means 3 currencies, 3 legal systems, and 3 completely different approaches to stadium construction entirely, all combined, and that's impressive, truly. Yet somehow, FIFA coordinated all 16 venues into one unified schedule, spanning June 11th through July 19th this summer, and that's the truth. That's nearly 6 weeks of continuous football, spread across a landmass larger than most entire continents combined together, and that's saying something, truly. Every host city expects massive tourism revenue, hotel bookings, and local business growth from hosting just a handful of matches, and that's no accident. New York and New Jersey alone project $3 billion in regional economic impact from hosting just 8 matches, worth remembering, honestly. Multiply that kind of impact across all 16 cities, and you start understanding why nations fight so hard to host this, which says a lot. Estadio Azteca's altitude alone changes how visiting teams prepare, forcing squads to train for weeks at similar elevation beforehand, which few people know. Meanwhile, Miami's humidity creates a completely different physical challenge, one that has absolutely nothing to do with altitude at all, and that's genuinely rare. No 2 stadiums here present the exact same challenge, which is why coaches genuinely treat this tournament like 16 separate puzzles, a fact worth noting. Now here's something relatable. Imagine explaining this entire stadium lineup to your grandfather who watched 1970 purely on radio, and that's impressive, truly. He'd ask why a football stadium needs air conditioning at all. You'd need at least 20 minutes to explain, and that's no accident. He'd also ask why Texans built something nicknamed the Death Star just to occasionally play soccer matches inside, and that alone is impressive. Honestly, you probably don't have a good answer for that one either, and frankly, nobody really does completely, and that's rarer than you'd think. It's basically like explaining smartphones to someone who grew up dialing an actual rotary telephone their entire life, which most fans never realize. Let's clear up some common misconceptions about these stadiums before you accidentally repeat them somewhere genuinely embarrassing publicly, and that's genuinely hard to beat. Misconception 1. People assume every single stadium here is brand new, built specifically just for this one tournament, which honestly changes the picture. Wrong. Estadio Azteca opened in 1966. Most NFL stadiums featured here are decades old, just heavily renovated since then, and that's impressive, truly. These venues host NFL games, concerts, and countless other events year-round, long before and after this tournament ends completely, and that's the truth. Misconception 2. People assume all 16 stadiums come equipped with retractable roofs and full air conditioning installed inside them, and that's no accident. Wrong again. Only 3 stadiums offer complete climate control here. 13 venues remain essentially open to real weather, and that's rarer than you'd think. That means rain delays, humidity, and brutal heat remain very real possibilities for the majority of scheduled matches, and that alone is impressive. Misconception 3. People assume the single biggest stadium automatically gets to host the actual World Cup final match, and that's saying something, truly. Not true. AT&T Stadium is the largest by raw capacity, but MetLife Stadium hosts the actual final instead, which honestly changes the picture. Selection genuinely depends on infrastructure, location, media market size, and overall logistics, not raw seating capacity alone entirely, worth knowing before you visit. Even Arrowhead, despite owning that noise record, only hosts a quarterfinal instead of anything bigger than that match, and that's genuinely hard to beat. So let's bring this all together. 16 stadiums, 3 nations, and one incredibly ambitious global tournament unlike any before, which says a lot. Estadio Azteca brings unmatched history spanning 3 separate tournaments. AT&T Stadium brings unmatched raw seating scale and size, and that's rarer than you'd think. MetLife brings the final itself. Atlanta and Houston bring full climate control for both players and traveling fans alike, and that's impressive truly. Arrowhead brings record-breaking noise. SoFi brings pure modern engineering built specifically for football's genuinely next generation of fans, and that alone is impressive. Vancouver brings retractable roof innovation. Miami brings serious Super Bowl pedigree earned across multiple decades of major hosting, which most fans never realize. Boston brings massive technology upgrades everywhere, from giant video boards to entirely reimagined hospitality spaces built for fans, and that's saying something, truly. Every single venue tells its own unique story, and together they form football's biggest stage ever fully assembled, which honestly changes the picture. From Pelé in 1970 to whoever lifts this trophy in 2026, these grounds have genuinely witnessed absolutely everything, a detail worth remembering here. 16 stadiums, 3 countries, 1 unforgettable summer. You now know more than 90% of casual football fans, worth knowing before you visit. The game has not changed. The stadiums have changed. You're welcome. Subscribe for more World Cup breakdowns weekly, and that's rarer than you'd think.